All right. Hello and welcome to the second ever Givebutter webinar, streaming to you live from Boston, Massachusetts and Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm your host, Max Truman, and I've always wanted to say that. Today, we're going to discuss a lot, everything from fundraising events, virtual events, to fundraising in a pandemic, our Givebutter and Bloomerang partnership, and so much more. But first, I would love to hear from you. If you're joining the call live today, leave us a note where you're calling from, why you are joining us today, what's your favorite emoji. Please drop it in the chat. If you have questions throughout the next hour, we'll be doing this from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern time. Leave those in the Q&A, and we'll get to those throughout and at the end of the webinar. And with that, let's get started. So again, we're going to cover a lot of ground today. It's going to be a packed hour. Some quick introductions about our special guest speaker today. Talk about the Givebutter Bloomerang partnership, virtual events, fundraising tips, success stories, and one success story in particular, we're excited to highlight from the Indianapolis Junior Tennis Development Fund. And of course, we'll leave some time at the end for your questions. So as I said, I'm your host, Max Freeman. I'm the CEO of Givebutter. We are an online fundraising platform powering donations, campaigns, and events for thousands of nonprofit organizations. I started the company in 2016 in my college dorm room with the goal of combining industry best practices like peer-to-peer with innovative technologies like Venmo and text to donate. We love building good products, and we're frequently praised for them in terms of their design and usability. We're actually one of the fastest growing and best rated nonprofit technology software platforms, according to Capterra, GetApp, G2, and Software Advice Frontrunners 2020. And if you don't know about Givebutter, we founded the company on 3 main ideas to help you raise more, pay less, and give better. Like I said, we're really passionate about building great technology that's accessible, easy to use, and helps you raise more money from your supporters. And with me today, I have Jay Love, who really needs no introduction, but I'm going to give one anyway. Jay is the CRO and co-founder of Bloomerang. He has served this sector for 38 years and considered the most well-known senior statesman whose advice is sought constantly, including by myself. He has been the CEO of 4 companies serving the sector. He's a graduate of Butler University, and over the years, he has given more than 1,500 speeches around the world for the charity sector, and is often the voice of new technology for fundraisers. He's a current board member of many organizations, including the AFP Ethics Committee and former member of the AFP International Board. He was a founding member of TechPoint Foundation, founding member of the AFP Business Member Council. He's a former board member of the Lilly School of Philanthropy at IU and Gleaners Food Bank. Jay currently serves on the board of the Conner Prairie Museum, the Butler University Innovation Fund, the Philanthropy Center of New England, and the Fundraising Effectiveness Project. He's also on the board of several technology companies. He and his amazing wife, Christy, the former executive director of the Lawrence Township Schools Foundation, served as co-chairs for the Indianapolis Fort Harrison YMCA 2011 capital campaign, and are the proud parents of 3 children as well as 7 grandchildren. Jay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. My mom would be proud of your introduction. Thank you.
Yeah.
So much.
Sure
And we're real excited. We've got the 8th grandchild coming in about 30 days. So a little more excitement around our place. So
beautiful. That's amazing. Well, Jay, I'm going to stop screen sharing in just a minute. But before I do, how about you tell everyone a little bit more about Bloomerang?
Well, thank you, Max. As you know, Bloomerang is one of the premier donor record keeping systems. Some people call them CRM systems for nonprofits. We work primarily with small and medium-sized nonprofits for that, and combine a real strong ease of use with helping people move into the major gift world. And when we say major gift world, we're talking about a real easy way to help you identify and upgrade donors in your database so that they're hopefully giving more to your mission every year going forward for that. And we do that with several innovative functions such as an engagement meter, a generosity score, and other key areas that help with your communication. We roll it all together with a built-in email system and letter writing system, so it becomes not only your record keeping system, but your complete communication tool.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm going to turn off the screen share. It's just me and you now, Jay. I want to start off with this. I think a lot of people who might be joining today would be wondering how we know each other, how we met. And it's actually not too long ago. It's been about a year, but it feels like it's been much longer than that. How about you take us back? How did we meet, and sort of what transpired over the first couple of months after that?
Well, I honestly think I reached out to you because we had several of our Bloomerang customers that said that they were using this innovative new online giving tool and peer-to-peer fundraising tool called Givebutter. And of course, at first I thought maybe it spelled it wrong or something to do that, and reached out. But when I reached out to find out a little bit more about it, I found Max and his co-founder that were these two energetic young men that were out to change the world. And I said, tell me all about it. And we were both so busy during the day, it led to several evening discussions for that. And those discussions just kept getting more and more in depth. And it led me to eventually become an investor in their company. And we then became business partners, integrating with a very tight integration between the two products. So if there can be something said as accomplishing a lot in a year or so, we really have done that, Max.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And one of the coolest parts about it too was how that all came together in the last year. And I feel like the timing couldn't have been better for us to kick off the partnership. Obviously, not ideal timing in the world context, but to be there for the nonprofits, I think really needed more innovative fundraising tools, and putting those together with all the power that comes with Bloomerang. So I definitely want to dive more into the partnership piece as well. What were some things that you thought were complementary about working with Givebutter and putting that together with all the power that Bloomerang has from its donor stewardship perspective, communications, web screening, all those amazing things that Bloomerang does? What was the thing that you feel like the customers would get value out of in looking at Givebutter?
Without a doubt, that both products were designed to be so easy to use that even an executive director could use either product for that. Or in the case of your peer-to-peer system, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit later with one of the boards I serve on in Indianapolis, that this was so simple and easy to use and so straightforward that every single board member could build their own online donation page and reach out to people within their email system to raise funds for our cause. And that was what was great. And I might add too, when you talk about the pandemic and the virus time that we're serving in right now, one of my favorite evening phone calls was Max gives me a call and he said, we've just created a virtual fundraising event machine to help make this much easier. And this is exactly what we took advantage of with the Tennis Foundation there in Indianapolis that you're going to be hearing about in a minute. So, but without a doubt, Max, it's the ease of use and the fact that we roll all of the products together with unbelievable customer support and implementation help. For that, every single customer at both Bloomerang and Givebutter and combined get hand-holding to the nth degree as needed to help them be successful. And yep. I know you're going to talk a bit about that going forward, but when we did our background research, that just kept coming up over and over and over of how well your team does that.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I think that was one of the biggest things that resonated with us too, is just the values we place on customer service and doing right by customers. I think a lot of businesses and folks in our space look at customer support as a cost center. It's something that's just going to be, needs to be outsourced. We prioritize those things. We really care deeply, and the customer experience is central to, I think, our success too, and our growth is that focus and that obsessiveness on the customer experience and the journey. All right, well, I have some exciting stats and things I want to share on how the partnership is going since we launched, hard to believe, just 4 months ago officially. So I am going to switch back over to the screen share here. So we have this little overview I put together on some of the more interesting takeaways. So in just 4 months since April of 2020, when we kicked this off, we've actually gotten a donor in every single state in the country, in many states, some as higher than 2,000 supporters in a single state, which is incredible. Your home state in Indianapolis doing great over there. And the payment method diversity is amazing as well. One thing we talk a lot about Givebutter in terms of donation collection and how important it is during these times when your entire engagement and experience with your donor may be a virtual one, is offering a wide range of payment options. And so here, although it's a little bit of small font, we have 60% here of supporters that are using the Givebutter Bloomerang integration. And again, there's a lot more here to the larger Givebutter and Bloomerang pie, but those ones who are actually using the integration, we're seeing about 60% of those donors giving with credit card and 40% giving with PayPal, Venmo, and digital wallets, which include Apple Pay and Google Pay. So that was really cool to see that actually Bloomerang customers are a little bit ahead of the curve. We usually see about 35% of our overall customer base using one of those alternative payment methods, but Bloomerang's at about 40%. And we have a lot of insights we're going to share, but I like to just show this summary perspective because we're Jay, you and I aren't necessarily a part of every single one of these campaigns, in these experiences. We don't know the ins and outs. We're at a very bird's eye view, but it's been really cool to see 153 events take place during a time where you can't meet in person. We categorize something as an event on Givebutter's side when someone's selling tickets or registrations or have event details on their page. And of the 548 campaigns we've seen in the last 4 months from Bloomerang Givebutter customers, 153 of those were events. So pretty cool stats. What do you think, Jay?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. In this time of the COVID-19 virus and the pandemic conditions and all, to see 548 brand new campaigns launch and most of them move to successful completion and reach their goal is so exciting for that, because just think of the missions that we have funded by doing that and have enhanced during that time. And the fact that, there's $10 million plus of new donations that have come in or on the way to coming in is absolutely so exciting for that, because as you know, the customers that are doing this, we're not talking about Harvard University or Ohio State. We're talking about real grassroots and mid-sized nonprofits across the country that are taking advantage of this.
Yep, that's a perfect segue. So we compiled a number of examples here on the left of some of those grassroots campaigns. And like you said, the amazing part is that a lot of this is grassroots. I mean, you're not going to see, don't get me wrong. We work with a number of larger, what you might define as an enterprise or a nonprofit that's raising a large capital campaign. But a lot of the stuff we're seeing are almost micro campaigns, organizations that are putting up spot campaigns really quickly, going from 0 to 1 in a very short period of time. And in April, that was a nonprofit that may have had a physical event already planned that they need to quickly pivot online, and they're getting going super fast. And now it's transitioning to coming into the fall. We have a little bit more planning typically. Now a lot of nonprofits are able to plan and actually get ahead of this stuff. So one question I wanted to ask you, Jay, was what are some of the things that you're seeing in the virtual events? I know you participated in one that we're going to talk about with the Indianapolis Junior Tennis Fund, but some of the things that you find to be particularly successful in the current climate when it comes to fundraising generally, but specifically virtual events.
The first one, and I think it's very important for every nonprofit that's out there listening today, is the ability to cast a much wider net. All of a sudden, these events, instead of being something that just takes place locally in one city and maybe has a 50-mile radius or something going out, we have people attending from all over the country for some of these events, and people making donations from 10 states away, and et cetera. So it's a much wider net to reach out to. Also, it allows the people that are sending out the communications about the event to be able to tap into individual email address books and all, and the ability to generate so many brand new donors. When we hear Melissa talk here in a few minutes, we're going to talk about the fact of how large the donor database for the Tennis Foundation grew with brand new names and brand new addresses and brand new donations for that. That would have never happened if we had just our regular local event that we would have seen come to life there. So the whole concept of casting a much wider net is the biggest takeaway. How about you, Max?
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'm going to build off of that. I think that what's been amazing to me as I'm looking at these examples, and one thing I want to mention, actually two things. One is all these campaigns are linked to, and we're going to include this in the follow-up. So all the people who are here and who have registered will receive not only a recording of the webinar, but a link to the slides that we have here. So you can check out each one of these examples and many more on the way. But to answer your question, Jay, I think that the virtual event landscape is so interesting because so much of what we're seeing here is it's not a completely different iteration of what an event would be in terms of a physical event. It's just a little bit of a spin. So people are taking the same ideas of pre-selling a ticket or a registration, collecting donations before, during, and after, having a venue for your event. But some of those things are a little different. The venue is not in person, it's a digital venue. Instead of doing donations so drilled down on the day of the event, like a fund in need, they're spreading that out over more time. Something that we're seeing also is instead of focusing on a high ticket price and letting that serve as the donation, bringing down the cost of the ticket so that, exactly like you said, more people can attend the event, and focusing much more on a suggested donation, which I know is something that you do with the tennis fund. So I think that those are some of the sort of slight innovations I'm seeing to make this more effective, and all of that with the incredible benefit of reducing your overhead.
Right.
With platforms like Givebutter and Bloomerang, you can get this spun up in a very minimal cost from a software perspective, but have an enormous impact without the overhead of catering, venue, speakers, and everything else that you might need to put into an in-person event. So you bring all these things together.
Can I finish your sentence there, Max?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the second big takeaway is the net amount on the events has increased substantially. You know, in the past, you know, you might have an event that raises, you know, let's say $200,000, but has $100,000 of expenses, and it only nets out, you know, $100,000. Now we've had events that still raise the $200,000, but then net out, you know, $190,000. They may only have, you know, $10,000 in expenses versus $100,000 or even less. So what we're seeing is this trend now that these virtual events have a much higher net dollar amount that comes out of them for that, and usually require even less time and effort on this part of the volunteers to make this come to life.
Right, 100%. I want to switch gears just a little bit from virtual events to just general fundraising and donations. One thing that we're seeing also, I just think the importance of all your online fundraising technology is just 10 times more important than it's ever been. And I think that it's only going to continue. And one of the things that I think we're seeing nonprofits who have maybe, you know, been okay with the status quo for years are all of a sudden saying, well, the only place my donor is interacting with me online, and that needs to be an engaging experience. And that transcends not just a single event, but I'm ready to make a donation. I was inspired to give. I want to go to your website, to go to your donate button, hit that donation form. And what does that look like? What is that experience like? It's just becoming more important. I'm having a ongoing fundraising campaign that's project-based, you know, something that's just, it's not just a single event, but we're running a capital campaign over some period of time. When a donor goes to give to that, what does that experience look like? So the online engagement piece for us, we've seen, has always been important and a priority for Givebutter, but in the age of COVID, when you are in a virtual only or primarily virtual engagement experience, all those things just become so much more important because it moves the needle even more so. But I'd love to ask you similarly, like, what are some things past virtual events that you're seeing nonprofits do, maybe from even an email communication standpoint, to increase their donor engagement and donor stewardship?
Well, I think one of the key things that the last several months has brought to the forefront is trying to move more and more of both new donors and existing donors into recurring donors. Anything that can be done to help them sign up to make gifts on a recurring basis. As you know, I'm a big proponent of improving donor retention, and the people that are recurring donors retain at a 90+% retention rate, which is phenomenal, nearly twice what the normal retention rate is for donors in the nonprofit world. So I think one of the key things we're seeing now with the better online donation pages is the ability to make not only good suggested gift amounts, but also to help people very easily become a recurring donor.
Absolutely. That is probably one of the single most important things I think that we are seeing acceleration for, and that's an amazing thing that should and will, I think, continue for indefinitely. And I just saw, scrolling through my Instagram feed, Scott Harrison and Vic Harrison from Charity Water, or Vic launched a class on subscriptions. I have no relationship with them personally, but I thought that was a really interesting thing that they are, Charity Water, one of the pivotal examples of nonprofit growth and success, I think, is sharing a lot of what they've learned. So that's a spot on what you said, Jay. I completely agree. And it seems like and a lot of organizations are putting out some really good content to help nonprofits think about these things. Because there's a lot of little things that you can do that might feel like, I guess, small decisions in the moment when you think, oh, how do we, encourage recurring giving? But I think they can pay huge dividends over time. And as people who work in software, recurring revenue is the name of the game. And that is something that I think should transcend all, revenue generating organizations that include the nonprofit space. And I'm excited to see this trend accelerate for nonprofits. So,
yes. And then you've already taken the lead too of giving people options of using all sorts of payment methods. If you want to and bring in a younger crowd, donors that are below 65 years of age. For that, having that wide variety of payment options is very enticing to that group. And
yeah.
You might speak on that because you've seen that happen in the years you've been doing Givebutter, right, Max?
Yeah, certainly. I think we launched that integration with Venmo in particular has been a huge, widely adopted thing. And what's interesting too is we see it vary in terms of how many donors are on Venmo. Some we see closer to like 3, 4, 5%, some as high as 20% just based on the demographic. But I think what I love about the Venmo integration is it's so much more than just a payment method. When you say that you offer Venmo as a payment option, it shows that you're forward thinking as an organization. And it's for Givebutter makes it so easy to do that. You don't need a Venmo account. We integrate directly with the Venmo API. We're the only current fundraising platform that offers that integration. And by offering it, by just turning that switch, it does so much for your organization in terms of your ability to even attract a younger audience, even if it's just a $5, $10 gift to start, and steward that over time is so important. And on the recurring giving note, one of the things that I think is so exciting about virtual events is the number of events that are increasing adoption of recurring donors through the process of attending an event. So one thing Givebutter has always done, even before we had virtual events, was introduce the option to become a recurring donor when you buy a ticket. And a lot of nonprofits will have an event, have a ticket tier, you go through, and maybe there's a little field that says add an optional donation here. Givebutter can make that entire dedicated slide of the checkout flow where we say, make this a monthly gift. And if even 5 or 10% of donors are doing that, you're going to increase the long-term value of that prospect and of the revenue that you could generate as an organization immensely. So I love seeing nonprofits that are implementing that as part of their virtual event strategy, is thinking not just how much revenue we're generating from this event, but in future recurring gifts as well, and from pledges and things like that. Jay, we are a little bit ahead of schedule, but if you don't mind, I think I'm going to transition over to the tennis fund and introduce Melissa.
Oh, yeah, because Melissa's the star of the show, not you and I.
I couldn't agree more. All right, well, I'm going to give a quick intro here. Hey, Melissa. Melissa Fitch is the Director of Administration for the Indianapolis Junior Tennis Development Fund. She has served this organization for over 20 years, both teaching on court and in various administrative roles. After studying French at Indiana University and spending 18 years in an elementary classroom setting, she transitioned to a full-time role with the foundation in 2019. The Indianapolis Junior Tennis Development Fund started as a grassroots backyard program in 1964. It has served the greater Indianapolis area for the last 57 years, ensuring the development of an estimated 50,000 players of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm glad to be here.
All right. I'm going to stop sharing. I like to see everyone's faces here and just you can wave hello. I wish we had a crowd here. We could all wave back. Melissa, how about you just introduce yourself a little bit more, but specifically tell us a little bit more about the fund, the foundation.
So we are one of those grassroots programs you guys were talking about earlier. We started in our founder's backyard 57 years ago. We like to use tennis as a vehicle for education. So we're a community-based program. We believe that tennis is much more than a game. It teaches those life skills and core values and things that our players can use throughout their lives, both on and off the court. Through our foundation, we're able to offer scholarships and different educational opportunities, reading programs, essay contests, and things. For those that would really not be able to play otherwise, tennis can be an expensive sport, and this enables all players to be able to play. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what you're doing. And I think that continuing that legacy, even just thinking about tradition, is incredible. 57 years and anything, it's just awesome that you're able to continue that and thrive. I'd love to, one of the things I love and I'm excited to dive into is, I believe this was your first ever virtual event, but also the first time you've ever used Givebutter, and the first time, I think as a Bloomerang, like you were just kind of ramped up at this point. So you're like, you went from 0 to 100 real quick. I know that you had, the benefit of Jay here to help kind of make that come together, but talk to me about, planning and thinking about this event. What was like sort of set the stage here? What kind of prompted the event? What was going through your mind? Why did we put together the event that we did?
So it was pretty critical for us. We were a seasonal program, We really only meet mid-March through mid-October. And so we went from offering roughly 29 weeks of programming to only offering 4. We also last year had our first in-person fundraising event, which we were not able to host this year. So it was critical that we do something that we to replace the lost programming and income and all of that. So
yeah, certainly. So I want to cover sort of the implementation piece. Talk about like what. So you have this. This happens. We're thinking about this event. We need to make up for this lost revenue. How did it kind of come together? What was sort of your first step of action and putting together sort of the onboarding and the plan and the rollout of it?
So obviously we needed to do something that wasn't in person. We were incredibly lucky to have this connection with Billie Jean King, which we're just fortunate. That was what started it all.
And for those of us who are not tennis aficionados, who is Billie Jean?
She's a true tennis legend. Kind of a legend in her own right, just in general. She I don't know off the cuff how many Grand Slams. Jay, do you know?
I don't know how many, but I think the key thing is she's one of those individuals. You think about certain athletes that transcend their sports, and Billie Jean did that for women's rights and for other causes, and continues to this day to give back in a way that we can only wish other athletes would do. It was really very special.
Well, and she also is one that can attest that tennis is more than a game, like we say, and she uses those skills and uses tennis as a vehicle to make changes in the world. And so by offering this, we were able to kind of stay true to our mission and offer our players another opportunity that is unique.
Absolutely. It's interesting.
It started, Max. I'll add a little color to it. The founder of this organization, had this relationship with Billie Jean, and she offered to do some sort of a fireside chat, a live talk or something. And it was my suggestion, I think, at the board meeting to say, well, we can turn this into a really nice fundraising event. And I just happened to have this partner that might be able to help out with it. And that's when we, introduced the concept of the new virtual event functionality within Givebutter to make that happen for it. And once everybody sort of understood that a little bit, I knew the success of it sort of hinged on somebody making it all come to life. And that's where I'm going to turn the story back over to Melissa, because she did that and more as this unfolded.
It enabled us, like you were talking earlier about people from all over the country. It enabled Billie Jean to participate from New York. It enabled our former players that no longer live in Indianapolis to participate, something that they've not been able to do in the past. And it just enabled anybody to participate that wanted to. Max, you did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy to me. We have a whole lot of people from all over the world, all over the country joining this webinar right now. I'm looking forward to a future where Zoom introduces like little avatar people. So like I said, we could all like wave and then we're all like actually, it feels like we're actually at an event. But, for the downside of it, the benefit is amazing. I mean, the fact that so many people can just tune in from their chairs, someone like Billie Jean King can join an event. That's exactly the kind of thing I think I find so fascinating about now, which is you can do things a little bit differently. And if you, in one sort of, not that this is the topic of conversation, but it also shows the benefit of having a good board. And we talk a lot about the tactics of an event and how to set everything up, but sometimes it's going to your board, being able to lean on them for advice, connections, resources, that can really be the difference maker for a nonprofit. So especially one that's very grassroots, like your own. So before I jump over to show some of the results, I want to how was the event? How did it go? Tell me before I kind of show the results, tell me how did it go?
Things were good. Things were great. I can't stress enough just how easy Givebutter made things. We were able to onboard and move very quickly. So we were able to onboard 13 board members and 3 staff members, and really have everything up and running within a matter of a couple days. And so it was a quick turnaround for us. Our oldest board member is 87 years old. She has no experience with this type of setup, and really, just between us, kind of minimal knowledge in technology, but was able to navigate both creating her own page and sharing it. And she was one of our largest fundraisers, one of the most critical ones.
I was going to say, without her doing that, it was remarkable. The fact that every single board member, and Melissa and I talked about this, I said, I don't know whether we'll get everybody to do this, but every single board member reached out and everybody was a successful fundraiser. And I think it was also very good for the board themselves to realize that they could all be successful fundraisers, because some of them had really not done much of that in the past. And all of a sudden they were raising hundreds and thousands of dollars just by the use of the technology and reaching out to people that they knew. It was very special to watch unfold.
Well, that minute right there was the best testimonial I might have ever heard about Givebutter. That's amazing. All right, let's switch it over and see what we got. So here's just a quick snapshot of what the campaign page looked like. I think we have a link to it on the next slide for anyone who would be interested in checking out the actual page. What's cool about Givebutter too is this page actually adapts, right? Like you can sell tickets beforehand. You can make the donate button have different text there, so it kind of indicates where we're at in the campaign. You can change that, beautiful photo of Billie Jean King there to a video for the actual stream. I believe this was held as a private Zoom, so it doesn't have to be public, but it could be. This page can really morph to your needs as the campaign itself evolves. So definitely anyone looking after for the campaign, I think it's just givebutter.com/BJK or something like that. So definitely recommend checking that out. But yeah, here are some of the numbers. Just like we pulled out bird's eye view of Bloomerang, here's coming in at ground level on one of these incredible campaigns. I love the two stories over there on the right of folks joining. It's amazing. I also sort of got a caveat here. I don't know, I've never met Billie Jean King, but I've seen her now on I think at least 3 different Givebutter campaigns. So I am a super fan at this point.
There you go.
It's amazing. She is amazing. But yeah, we, really super excited to see that, especially again as sort of first time virtual event, first time Givebutter user, first time Bloomerang user. Now, Melissa, you've got 115 new constituents in Bloomerang. What's the update? One of the most important things of a virtual event is follow up. And I think that what I love about the integration is that you can have such a great front end experience for your supporters, but then you can make sure that all the data gets saved and you can continue to grow and build on for the next one. So yeah, what's next for the fund?
That's been huge for us. The integration and the ease of which being able to use it. We were able to instantly do reports and know kind of those 115 new constituents. Within the ticket, they were able to click whether or not they wanted more information about our organization. So we were able to send those people welcome packets and letters and things. And then the follow-up, we were also able to record the session. Billie Jean was kind enough to give us permission to do that. So we sent a personalized thank you note to every donor and person that came, and with the recording. So they were able to watch it again and again and share that.
Yeah, and in addition to the follow-up from Melissa and from the staff there at the fund, I was able to, as a board member, anybody that I had reached out to with my communications that donated, it immediately went to my phone or my laptop and it told me the person that donated, their donation, any comments that they left. And in most cases, I was able to respond with a personalized thank you. Some cases I did email, a couple cases I just picked up the phone and I called somebody to do it. But in most cases, I was responsive to them in 10 or 15 minutes from the time the donation came in and went through the system. And people all commented to me, they had never been thanked in that much real time except by an automatic robot. But in a couple cases, someone came through with a really nice gift. I just picked up my phone and called them immediately and thanked them on the phone. And it was just a lovely conversation to have that happen, because Melissa didn't mention, but we started the process of communicating to people about 2 weeks before the event, wasn't it, Melissa?
Yes.
For it. So donations started coming in 2 weeks, and then they continued to come in a week or two after the event. So those people I was responding to, it was basically, I would get notices somewhere over that 4-week period and was able to respond. And of course, each time it was somebody that I knew. So it gave me a reason to reach out to them on a personal level. And that was very rewarding. to be able to do that and make that happen. And, a couple of them came through with really nice surprises that, all of a sudden there was, a gift much larger than I was anticipating coming from that individual. So it was really neat to see.
That's awesome. One more quick thing I want to highlight, if you have any additional thoughts, is the supporter feed. I know that a lot of cool messages were left. We had 74 comments on the live supporter feed. Do you have I don't know if you're in a spot because I didn't ask you this ahead of time. Do you have a favorite, or did one sort of stick out to you that it's like, wow, so-and-so left a really nice message, or just in general, like seeing that? I think one of the things we hear frequently is just, you don't necessarily think about the supporter feed, I think, sometimes when you think about setting all this stuff up, but seeing those messages in such a visible way, it's like a testimonial wall. It's all these people coming together as a community to support a single cause. So I don't know if you have a fan favorite, Jay or Melissa, but
go ahead, Melissa. I've got one. I'll mention it.
Just in general, tennis players are competitive, and so it was interesting to see the different board members competing with each other, or who could get different comments and things, and then people that we haven't heard from for many years that were program players in the past but have moved, in their testimonies and things like that. It was quite a competition. It drove some donations and things like that. But Jay, what's your favorite?
Well, obviously there's, as you can imagine, a board like this, there's a lot of really good tennis players, and several of them I could not beat on the tennis court, but I raised more money than they did through the fund here. So I finally got a victory over a couple of those individuals. So that was neat. But what was the unbelievably kind words that I saw about Billie Jean, and the fact that they were not aware of the mission of our foundation, and the live event brought those all to light. So, and so I got, additional comments for people that they would text me or email me in addition to the donation replies that they came in. And it was just very touching to hear about that. And then I saw several of the people that donated in person or talked to them on the phone later on, and they just talked about how quickly the time went that during the fireside chat, and how glued to it they were, that they really thought that it was a very well done event. So a testimony to Melissa and everybody at the fund for doing that. And obviously to our special guest star, who obviously knows how to make one of these really come to life.
Definitely. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna, on that note, unless you all have anything to add, I'm gonna turn it over for some questions.
That's always the best part, Max. When we get
I totally agree. I mean,
yeah,
more time the merrier. All right, take off the share. So last time, I think, Rachel, if you want to queue some up for us, or we can take them right from the Q&A. We have Rachel here from Givebutter, our fantastic marketing expert, who you may have seen, if you're familiar with our good newsletter, puts it together every week, does our success stories. Lucky to work with Rachel and over there. So Rachel, yeah, do you have any questions for us from the audience?
Well, thank you, Max. Hi, everybody. We've had quite a few people suggest that maybe we make up the name Givebutter for users who are integrating with Givebutter and Bloomerang, which I think is a fabulous idea. And they're just wanting to connect more with
not Bloombutter. We're not going to.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, and I might add there, Rachel, that the reason that Bloomerang uses the orangutan, many people don't know, but in the animal kingdom, the orangutan is the only species that exhibits philanthropy. They will show philanthropy and gratitude to each other for that. And Indianapolis has also, our zoo happens to have one of the largest orangutan exhibits in the world. So it's really neat to be able to go down and interact with them and see. So that's why we chose that. So yeah, and I thought the Givebutter team did a pretty good job of integrating the two together already. So that's a super action there, Max.
It's like Austin's like giving our butter mascot a hug. It's like you steward, and we're on the front, you steward them later.
But there has to be some how-to questions for Melissa. There's got to be some good questions that Melissa can share there that we want to get into.
I do have a question for Melissa from Susan, and the question is, how did you walk your board through setting up their own pages to fundraise for your event?
Well, I have a confession. I didn't have to, because Givebutter gives such good directions. So they send out an onboarding email. And so all I did was pass that information along, and it's a step-by-step thing. I think there's even pictures and screenshots and things that really kind of walk everybody through it. And so we honestly didn't have any questions, didn't have any issues. Everyone was able to do it.
Should we fess up that you did help at least one board member do it, where you sort of build it for them and then they adopted it, right, Melissa?
I did do it, and it was not a lack of knowledge, it was just a lack of time. And so
Right.
I was able to do that for them, and it just really kind of took that off their plate. So then they were able to share, which was the more critical part of it.
Yeah, because this was, this was going on as tax time was wrapping up. And so we've got, attorneys on our board and CPAs on the board and all. And, everybody sort of knew that if they were in a pinch, that Melissa would come in and help with it so that they could get their announcement out and make sure that they were part of the fundraising competition.
Awesome. I have another question for Melissa from Sylvia. Who did you share your event with? Was it only tennis club members in town and worldwide?
We did. We started with our players and families. We also shared it with the other tennis programs in the city and in the area. But from there, the board members shared it with friends, family. I personally shared it with friends and family that aren't necessarily tennis related. We shared it with our school system that we work through, and really just kind of presented it as this is an educational opportunity, not just related to tennis.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, from my email address book, I probably sent out about 120 emails to 120 different people, and it was people I knew that enjoyed tennis, but also had a passion for helping with youth and youth sports and youth education for that. And then I had a few that were just sort of fundraising related consultants. And I said, you really need to see how virtual events are going to be done, because you're going to have clients wanting to know how to do that. And a few of those actually made donations too. So it was really sort of neat, but it was really up to each board member to spread it out to as many people as they felt comfortable within their address books.
Got it. I guess this could be for all of you. Anonymous attendee wants to know more about the do's and don'ts of online events, particularly interested in the don'ts. Have you seen some online events that tried things that didn't work well, didn't lead to success, or in general that you think people are not interested in seeing and will not lead to donations? So no need to name names, anonymous attendees, just curious.
That's a good question. Every campaign on Givebutter is wildly successful, so we don't that is a really, really good question. I think one of the things that I've seen, and these are more just general tips, I think that are just a best practice, is rehearsal and preparation is really critical. We have had one or two organizations that don't do a sort of a pre-run, if you will, just kind of a go live on the day of. And with streaming, streaming can be finicky. You want to make sure that you have familiarity with going live on YouTube. If you're doing a Zoom call, you can stream from Zoom to YouTube very easily. Stream from Zoom to Facebook Live, Twitch, Vimeo. Vimeo has a live stream tool. So if whatever you're using, the software, do a run through. One of the great things about Givebutter is you can sign up free. You can set up your page. You can put a video on it, and the link is unlisted by default, so no one's actually seeing it. You can even unpublish it, so only a logged in person from your account can access it. And those are really good ways that you can kind of do a test run, make sure that it's working for you beforehand. Every organization is wildly different. We've seen events that, and I know this sounds crazy, but I've run literally for 24 hours where they have 6-hour-long broadcasts where they're doing the peer support group where they bring people on, and that's been really interesting. And that was actually really successful for them. I think for a lot of organizations that might sound crazy. You can do a 30-minute long, one that's much more quick and action-packed. It varies a lot, but that jumped to the top of my head as just one of the things that has come up that I think is super important. It's just practice, preparation, planning. All the things you normally would do for a physical event, you can actually even plan a little bit more, prepare a little bit more for a virtual event, because you can do a run through. You don't always get the benefit of a rehearsal for a in-person event with a physical venue. So that's one thing. Jay or Melissa, do you have any other thoughts there?
I'll defer to Melissa. Melissa, anything you would have done more of or less of or differently than after going through your first virtual event?
I think that we really took advantage of the customer service that you guys offer. I think that's a big do. You touched on it earlier, and from our perspective, a customer's perspective, it's really unmatched. And so it's not just the quality of the product that you guys are offering, but it's the fact that you offer all this extra help. And as someone that has not been in the fundraising world long, it was much needed and very much appreciated. And so I think that's the biggest to do.
Yeah, and we gave some careful thought about who was going to be sort of the master of ceremonies and who was going to kick things off, and also it was fairly well orchestrated of who had the speaking parts, and it would be people that would be comfortable with that and could carry it off very well, and obviously those were very wise decisions here that worked out quite nicely in this situation for that. So that, I think that's a good clue for people to think about, and then to really let your board members or people that are reaching out to potential supporters to know that a big part of their duty is not only the outreach, but the acknowledgement and thank you later on. Because I think it was very special that most of our donors got a thank you from the foundation, but also a thank you from the board member that reached out to them. So, I just don't think you can do too much of the thank you processes, especially when they're, very customized and very much, outlining what the mission and the project involving was.
I do have one more. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Melissa. No, please.
Just one more thought. We did have a rehearsal beforehand, but also I tried to present our board members with like a kind of a packet of things, digital images that they could use on their social media, links and things, and then some copy that they could use in terms of what our mission is and why we needed it. And so to try to just make it easier for their outreach if they needed that.
Yeah, Melissa, and I don't know whether it was you, Melissa, or somebody else, really found some wonderfully neat old pictures that brought the whole mission to life. So it was fun putting some of those on our individual pages, Max.
Yeah, I love that on your story, Jay. I saw that picture of you. I think it was one playing tennis, or with the family. You told your whole story of how you kind of came into tennis. It was really nice.
Yeah, well, yeah, because all of my children went through this particular program, so it was very near and dear to the heart there.
One more don't I thought of quickly is just if you have an in-person event that you're trying to make a digital event, one of the biggest don'ts I have is just don't try to do your physical event as a virtual event. It's going to have to be a little bit different. It sounds like, a little bit generic there, but like if you're thinking I have a gala that takes place in fall, you can still do a version of an online gala, but if you're trying to recreate the same ticket tiers, exact sponsor structure, we're not in person, we're not necessarily at a table. So think a little bit outside the box with those things. The most successful organizations I'm seeing are adapting, not fighting against it and trying to recreate the exact same event online. It's a little bit, they put their own flair there. So that's a don't.
And one of the things that's real easy to do, because do you still highlight a lot of the events going on your website, Max?
Oh yeah, givebutter.com/explore, and in the case studies, we have a bunch of Givebutter case studies. You can Google that.
So one of the things I did before reaching out to potential supporters and before acknowledging the guests is I actually went out and did my own research by participating in a few of those events and just making a small donation. So, for a few $10 donations, I got, $1 million worth of expertise that came back. So I got to see what I liked and what I did not like from various groups. And so it was sort of fun experimenting. And it was really neat to be able to make some suggestions to Melissa from seeing how other people were doing that. Did you, Melissa, go out and take a look at some of the others that were going on before we attempted to create ours?
I did. I went through the Givebutter page and kind of did the same thing.
Yeah,
what I liked, what I thought we could do, and things like that.
Yeah. So that's virtually open to everybody there. That it's whether you go ahead and make a small donation or not, but it's a great way to plan your event and to see what you like and dislike. Because as Max says, it has to be done in a slightly different manner than the normal in-person special event.
Speaking of live event options, Nick is wondering if you could talk more about other live event options that maybe haven't been mentioned yet that you've seen.
I'm going to defer to Max on that. Max, could you
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I highly following in Jay's footsteps in terms of checking out other examples. We try really hard to feature and highlight. Even every week, Rachel, as I mentioned, the newsletter puts together a newsletter every week where we highlight 4 campaigns we love on Givebutter, and they're always using the platform in very interesting ways, highlighting a lot of virtual events, Givebutter case studies. In terms of formats, though, I think that I try to break this down into maybe 3 buckets. You have live events that are happening in real time, and those are usually live streamed in terms of it's a live virtual event. So you have a broadcast happening in real time. You tune in at a certain time and it's live. We're seeing pre-recorded events. So a lot of folks are pre-recording video and setting it live or just posting it at a certain time. We even had one organization that actually, if you tuned in at 8:05, the stream was actually 5 minutes in, but it was all pre-recorded and it felt like it was live. You honestly wouldn't really know unless you were behind the scenes. The other is actually, it's a bit of a strange one, but it's almost no event at all. And it's just the idea of running more of an online fundraiser or a campaign. So a lot of folks will use team fundraising, peer-to-peer fundraising as the event, and they may interject. Like we had a Habitat for Humanity that did a virtual concert in the middle of their ongoing peer-to-peer fundraising campaign, and they used the same page, just replaced the cover photo with a famous artist in Texas doing a country show online, and then pulled that off the next day. And during the event, people can watch on the page, make a donation all in the same place. So those are different formats in terms of the structure. But I would definitely recommend looking at some of those case studies to get some inspiration for how folks are using it in different ways.
I'm gonna toss it back to Melissa. What was the timeline for launching your campaign, and how much time was needed for an effective and successful campaign like yours?
So we were in a unique situation in which Billie Jean told us when she was able to do it, and we did it. But
which was, I think, was a good thing overall, don't you?
It was a great thing.
Because we would have just dilly-dallied around for a month or 2. So
it caused us to focus, and that was helpful. Like I said, we got the date, and then within a matter of a couple of days, we were live and ready to fundraise and accept donations, our pages and things. The event itself was a couple weeks after we announced. And so it was within the matter of a couple weeks, we were done and finished.
And you might tell them too, Melissa, didn't the event stay pretty close to just 1 hour in length for that? We ran it pretty tight on that, right?
It was an hour in length. We opened it a couple minutes before we went live, and then we started right on time and ended within an hour.
And what percentage of the donations came in during that hour versus before and after? Do you have any sort of a ballpark percentage-wise of how much was raised during the actual event? Because we had a pretty fair amount going before the event even started, right?
I think we only accepted 2 donations during the event. And then the rest was before and after. Now we did receive several donations after the event. And things, Billie Jean laid down a challenge in the middle of it, and so some people met that. But as far as during the event, I think people were too excited to listen to her.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that sort of helped wrap up the campaign and move us up was a sort of a matching challenge grant was announced at the event itself, which probably led some people to make a second donation. Correct, Melissa?
Yes. Yes,
yeah, we had some donors that came back, and I know 1 or 2 of mine did, and they saw that there was that challenge there, and they stepped up to make sure that the match came through and made an additional donation. So I think that was an effective strategy too in this particular case.
Anything else that you guys want to mention about the Givebutter Bloomerang integration? We had a couple just general questions about that.
Well, I think the key thing there is that all of the appropriate information flows in. It checks for duplicates to make sure we don't create a brand new constituent in the database unless it's needed to do that. But all of that, not only name and address information, everything that we can lay our hands on is transferred over, as well as the individual transaction and all the details according to that. So Max, anything you want to add to that? I mean, the key thing is that nothing has to be touched a second time. It's just, it's all flowing electronically from the time someone touches the Givebutter website and the transaction is created, till everything ends up over in the Bloomerang system.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think, and sometimes I think it's so powerful, but I also feel sometimes we're scratching the surface. I think we have a lot of exciting things on both of our roadmaps and in terms of the integration, what we can do, but it's cool because it works across all of the Givebutter products. So we're talking a lot about virtual events, but Givebutter makes it easy for you to embed a donation form directly on your website and offer all these payment methods. Not just run a virtual event, but do a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign as a standalone campaign. Set up a micro site as a giving hub, and all this stuff that you can do on Givebutter universally integrates with the Bloomerang CRM. So it's not just necessarily a one-time solution, but it can be an ongoing solution for your organization as you run multiple events and have donation forms and different payment processing needs. And it's really an awesome pairing. I think, I love that we're able to work with so many Bloomerang customers who are coming from Bloomerang to Givebutter. But one of my favorite things is taking a Givebutter customer who might be managing their stuff in a Google Sheet or using maybe a different CRM tool, and then getting to expound all the benefits of Bloomerang to them and getting them to make that switch to level up their donor management and stewardship. So it's a really nice two-way relationship. It's so complementary in terms of the stuff that we do and the values we get to provide and the values that we share. So yeah, that's probably what I would stress. And I think just Melissa's like the shining example of this. Like you were able to get this up and running and successful in a short period of time and have a great experience. And that's what we can do for, I think, so many small, medium-sized nonprofits who are looking for that in an all-in-one fundraising ecosystem. So that's probably I could probably talk all day about it. I'm not gonna lie, but that's probably what I would say for now.
Yeah, I think you did. I think the other thing that once it moved into the Bloomerang system, some people may not be aware, but during the course of the next week or so, we then took a look at, and overnight, we do this in various stages, but we correct all the addresses, make sure if there's any change of address we go through, if the donor accidentally put something in the wrong case or whatever. So we wanted to make sure that Melissa and her team had a totally deliverable mailing address as part of that. So that was looked at, corrected, and matched for that. And then over time, we will also overlay in prospect research information so we can see if that donor has the potential to become a major donor down the road. And I think that's sort of exciting. Melissa, I don't want to put you on the spot, but have you seen some of those things come alive in the database since the event?
We have. And we actually had some people come join the program as well that found us through Givebutter, that found us through the event, that have just now become our people, our family.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
All right. Well, Melissa, Jay, thank you both so much. And thank you to everyone who's here with your questions in the chat. This has been a really amazing hour. I am lucky to join not only you two, but everyone here. It's our second ever webinar. I shared this on LinkedIn, but I'll share it again, is that, I'm not going to lie, I was skeptical about webinars when we started, even the company a long time ago. And I joined a Bloomerang webinar maybe in March when we kicked off our partnership, and was greeted with just incredible people, incredible questions, and it inspired us to start our own series. So I'm really appreciative of everyone here, especially you, Jay and Melissa. Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Tori, for joining as well. I have a slide to wrap up with some contact information, but I'm not able to find it. I'm going to go full screen share here, and hopefully I can get it. There we go. All right, there's our email. If anyone has any follow-up questions for us about Givebutter, any feedback for how we can make these webinars more valuable to you, please share and let us know. And thank you again, and hope to see you at the next one. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, thank you, Max. See you guys later.